Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha Anjananandanam Veeram Janaki Shokanashakam Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram. So the question was, if KK was just an instrument in making the plan of Ramchandraji go to the forest happen, then why was she punished? So the rules are, every action has a reaction. When will I do the action? When I want to. Nobody can force me. Actually, we'll say they forced me, or I have to. And interesting how people will use that so often. Like, there's somebody that comes to the ashram regularly, and then, she'll go for bingo. And I'll say, oh, and she said, I had to. and why did you have to? Because they asked me. How can I say no? If they asked me, I had to go. But obviously that's not true, right? Obviously you can say no, you cannot go. But so I had to doesn't exist. Or even something like a job and do it. You're still choosing. You can say no. And if it means you get fired, you get fired. But you choose not to get fired and you choose to go ahead and do it. So action have consequences. When do you do the action? When you want to. So is somebody forcing you to do the action? So who should the consequence come to? You, because you're doing the action. Now, she was used as an instrument to exile Ramchandraji. Why could she be used? Because she had the jealousy and she wanted to send Ramchandraji away. Sumantra wasn't used. Sumitra couldn't be used. Or other maids in the palace couldn't be used. Only Mantra could be used. So many maids there are in the palace. Hundreds and hundreds of maids are there. They couldn't be used. Or Bharat couldn't be used. Like Bharat is the one becoming the king, but Bharat couldn't be used to send Ramchandraji away. So why did she get the consequences of her action? Because she did the action. But you're getting used? Yeah, we all getting used all the time. How are we getting used? Based on what our vasanas are and based on what the other people need. Every single relationship. When it's a parent-child relationship, whether it's a husband-wife relationship, whether it's two really good friends that have been together from birth relationship, we rub each other in a certain way. Sometimes we bring out the best in each other. Sometimes we bring out certain quality in each other. Maybe not the worst in each other, but we bring out, like maybe with two very good friends, bring out jealousy in each other. Right? Or maybe with, again, two really good friends, bring out protectiveness in each other. Why? Because it's there in us. And we need to be able to manage it. So until we can get rid of that jealousy, it will keep coming up and we'll keep getting used to be the person to irritate the other person who we are jealous with. And then let's say I get over my jealousy, I can't be used for that role anymore. That friendship will continue and I'm not serving that purpose anymore. Yeah.
So I have a friend, and I like her, but whenever we meet, she wants to gossip about other people, which I don't want to do because it's hard not to when it starts.
Yeah.
So I avoid her.
So you avoid a friend because they have a certain tendency.
Upset.
Then she gets upset.
Is this happening because I have gossip in me, or?
So the trait that the other person has, that it's not necessarily that we invoking that. Okay, so you meet a friend and certain pattern of behavior happens. It could be that it's out of habit and then you need to have a conversation that we want to change this behavior. And maybe it's the courage to have that conversation and the courage to change that behavior. Or it could be that we outgrow relationships, which we do, but no need to discard people. So then we find interesting ways of Yeah, go to the movie so you don't talk. In this case, if you don't want them to gossip to you or to complain to you, or if you don't want them. What am I trying to say? It's not that I have it in me and that's why she is doing it. Like I said, sometimes we outgrow a relationship. So maybe I used to have it in me. I had the tendency to gossip in me, and so this friendship got clicked, and then we both enjoyed the gossiping, and now maybe I've outgrown. But people are still people, and we can still love them, and so we can find other conversations to have. Sometimes you can gossip about like movie stars because anyways they gossip. Right? Or even look at a trait that you can take from that. And talk about maybe more than that. So if you gossip about someone like Elon Musk, then you can talk about the why we need to go to Mars. Like actually very philosophically, will that really solve our problems? Because on Earth, when we move from one place to another place, we don't solve our problem. And human nature being human nature, if we go to Mars, we'll probably ruin Mars and we'll still be miserable.
People, we change it from gossip to philosophical.
Something, more topical rather than about the person being a certain way. And so that's a skill we can learn. It's one I've had to learn because people start gossiping with me. We change to either discuss human nature trends rather than a person's trend, or let's say if they did something. So if someone tells me, oh, this person is, very cheap. She didn't want to spend money. And I'll say, it, can be so hard when we don't have money. And really it can be, right? Like even somebody who's just taken a recent pay cut. Wow. Like they have money, but they've just taken a pay cut. And it's so miserable. Whereas I had this much allowance for 1 month and now I have less. It's like so infuriating not to have it. And so I talk about that rather than the person and their tendency, or if they are, if they're not, like what. It's like, who are we to judge? People change also. And even if they are cheap, that's like, who said we shouldn't be? Like, who said we had to spend? Like, who said that we didn't have to yeah. So if I meet people and they invoke something in me, does it mean I have it in me? Potentially. But it's also an opportunity for me to grow in some other way. So let's say I meet someone and they have a lot of fear. Do I have fear in me? No. Maybe I have courage in. And so they're meeting me to be inspired by the courage. I mean, of course, all of us have fear in us. Don't get me wrong, but maybe not that anxious personality type. So no, just how are we getting used? It's very simple. Things we design. And so why will we get the consequences, Hassan? Because we designed it. Understood?
If you do a day-to-day action, some consequences come out of it, then are you still responsible?
If I do day-to-day actions and consequence comes out of it, am I responsible for what?
For example, I read in the newspaper, somebody owed something.
I owe somebody money.
They asked them to pay. She couldn't pay.
I asked them to pay. And then that person committed suicide.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So who's responsible?
For the suicide.
Asking just for asking?
No. When somebody does an action, they're responsible for their action. So if somebody suicides, that's their action.
Yeah.
Am I?
The Lord is pressuring. Arrested, so.
No, you can't say somebody's pressuring me and that's why I did it and blame them. I just said when the boss tells you to do something, you still decide to do it.
Yeah.
So nobody can pressure you. Or if you take like this casting couch syndrome, where like women or men nowadays also, to get the job, you have to sleep with the person to get the job. You can't say you were pressured to do it. You can say no and not get the job. So this, I got pressure to do it. You had a desire. I didn't desire to do that action. Okay, but you desire the money, you desire the position, you desire the fame, you desire the whatever you get from it. You still desired something. It's still your desire that makes you want to do it. So suicide, desire to escape from that pressure, is her desire which made her do the action.
So the person asking is not.
I asked for money. Now, I asked for my money back. Am I responsible? One, did I really need the money back? Yeah. Two, was I aware of how much pressure she was under? So if I was aware of how much pressure she was under and I was just being greedy and I wanted my money back, yes, there's consequences for that action. Learn to be a little bit more generous in that. I really needed the money myself and I asked for the money back, then it's not greed and it's not desire, it's me trying to manage my own self. So what was my motivation for doing it will be determined by consequences to the action. But we can never blame another person for our action. Ever. And will I get consequences? 100%. And what will my consequences be based on? My intention. What was KK's intention? To be more powerful. Consequence, she got punished. It was selfish. In the process of her being more powerful, she hurt, wow, pretty much everyone in the kingdom. That too, right? To get what I want, how many people am I going to hurt? We don't realize how many people get hurt. So, with so many things we do. You're still looking confused. I thought I was so clear.
If a person wants to get more power to do something good,
If I want more power to do something good, but who am I hurting to get it?
that's the problem.
That's the problem. Don't hurt other people for me to get power. That's their problem if they get hurt. If it's within dharma, right?
Yeah.
Right. So let's say if it's a Gita chanting competition and I won first prize, and then everyone else cries, then you're right. That's their problem.
If someone just
Because I worked really hard and I won the competition. I wish Gita chanting competition, I would never win. But let's just say. Then somebody else is going and I'll be like, you should have had the genes to be an amazing chanter. Those genes do contribute. But also a lot of practice. But let's say I bribe the judge to let me get first place. Then, consequence. Then it's not their problem. Then it's my problem. Yeah. Or I maybe not bribe the judge, but I throw one maha tantrum and I know the person who won is soft-hearted. And then when I know if I throw this tantrum, that person will say, it's okay, you can take the prize. Then I take the prize. Intention and how I go about it. Right? I mean, success will lead other people in this world where it's win-lose setup. And yes, other people do sometimes not get the same opportunities. But as long as my intention was not to hurt. Okay. So we are up to Ramchandraji, Sitaji, and Lakshmana in the forest. They were with what's his name? His name is so hard to remember. The village chieftain, right? What Nishad Raj Maharaj. And then they were, so Sumitra is the chariot driver that has come from the palace with them. And they left even they left the village and went with Sumitra on the chariot all the way up to the river Ganga. And so now they said bye. Now he should go back to his village, and Sumitra should go back to the palace to Darshat Maharaj and the kingdom of Ayodhya. But Darshat Maharaj had very specifically said, don't take them to the forest. You just take them, go see the forest, bring them back. And then Sumitra also knew the Ramchandraji really well. Darshat Maharaj also knew Ramchandraji really well. So he said, if they put up a fight, then give this message. And then the whole message of, what is Dharma? It is interesting here that Guruji, when he's explaining this, talks about how we live our lives, one, not worrying about Dharma, but worrying about getting what we want to get. Or two, we know Dharma, we're not only trying to get what we want to get, but we're trying to please people. And then that ends in a lot of compromising of Dharma. And then third category of people, Ramchandraji, who doesn't matter what he wants, doesn't matter what anyone else wants, he will do Dharma. And so here the idea is Darshat Maharaj. Darshat Maharaj wants him to come back, but Dharma says no. So it was he won't even listen to Darshat Maharaj and make Darshat Maharaj happy. And so he tells Sumitra no. But the conversation is much longer, but it's okay. We don't need to go into the conversation. And then Sumitra said, well, Darshat Maharaj knew you were going to say no. So he said, even if Ramchandraji doesn't come back, bring Sita Ji back. So he turns to Sita Ji and says, please come back. And then he kind of turns to Ramchandraji as the order from father. So now you tell her to come back. And Ramchandraji is very good. He says, yes, Sita, if you want to, you go back. It will help alleviate so many people's suffering. And Sita's answer is really beautiful. So we're going to take this section. I haven't done too much of the conversations, but this conversation is her answer. And especially if you see this answer from a point of view of, in the Ramayana, Sita represents Jivatma. Well, in different ways of interpreting the Ramayana, Sita represents different things. But from a Advaita Vedantic point of view, Sita represents Jivatma, Ramchandraji represents Paramatma, and they are wed. Or even if you look at it from Sita is Lakshmi, and Lakshmi is Prakriti, and Ramchandraji is Vishnu, which is Purusha. And so the marriage is between Purusha and Prakriti. Right? And very often that symbolism is given, especially with Shiva and Shakti, Purusha and Prakriti, but with all of them. So even with Vishnu and Lakshmi, Lakshmi being earth, we've seen how much Lakshmi is earth and wealth and beauty and resources, and Vishnu is that consciousness, that chit. The very word Vishnu translates to big. Nice translation. Actually, it doesn't do justice to it at all. It means all-pervading. Because here the sense that big is just continuous, bigger than anything else. And so Vishnu means all-pervading. And so that chit, that consciousness, Sita is Jivatma or Prakriti. And so here, when she says, she's answering Bhagavan. Sita Ji says, Prabhu, which is interesting, because very often Sita will refer to Ramchandraji as Prabhu, and I don't, whereas Ramchandraji did. Y'all can start? Okay, y'all can start. As of today, all husbands to call their wives Devi, all wives to call husbands Prabhu. Hey, maybe the marriage might get better. Let's see, let's try. This week's homework. No, you're not doing homework. Prabhu does mean Lord, right? It reads Bhagavan. So she says, how can a shadow exist without the person? So that's the first thing. So who is Sita? Shadow. And it's poetic and it's very beautiful. But if you go back to Jivatma and Paramatma, so often this analogy is used. that that's why we talk about doing pranams, right? We bow down so that the shadow is smaller, because the shadow represents our ego and our individuality. And Shashtang Namaskar is so that there's no ego, there's no shadow. And so she says here, how can the shadow exist without the individual? In reply to, how can I leave you? Basically, that's what she's saying. But she doesn't say, how can I leave you? She says it this way. Then the second one is, how can the light of the sun exist without the sun? And how can the rays of the moon exist without the moon? Then how can I live without you? And so, yeah, this is also incredibly beautiful. So here we go to Purusha and Prakriti more than Jivatma and Paramatma. Because when we see more in the example of Shiva and Shakti than Vishnu and Lakshmi, but what it's described as, Shiva is the dancer and Shakti is the dance. Meaning, you can't really separate. So the sun and the light of the sun. The sun is the essence of Purusha. The light of the sun is Prakriti. And you can't separate. You can't. So beautifully, Sita Ji is saying, like, if you want, then I'm your shadow. But actually, as Lakshmi, I am. You can't separate us. So where do you want me to go? And she's poetically said, but the intent is so profound. Then Tulsidas Ji continues by saying that is the nature of their relationship. He is the sun and she is the light. And then she turns to Sumitra. So this bit she says to Ramchandra Ji, and then she turns to Sumitra and she says, you are elder than me, so I cannot deny you your request. But before you ask me this question, one thing I would like to emphasize. Without Ramchandra Ji, all other relationships are meaningless, since all of them are forged only by him. So now this is also really beautiful, because you see here so many different beautiful facets of Sita Ji. So first she acknowledges that she is his shadow, right? In the role that she is playing as Sita, she is his shadow. She hasn't forgotten who she is. At no point in Tulsi Ramayana has Sita Ji forgotten who she is. In no point in Kamba Ramayana also has Sita Ji forgotten who she is. She is Lakshmi. She's Adi Parashakti. And so the light that to the sun. But here now she's talking to Sumitra. Sumitra is the chariot driver. So here it's Adi Parashakti talking to devotee. Or Bhakta, Dasa, Sumitra is the chariot driver, taking them into the forest, trying to serve Dashrath Maharaj, but also trying to serve Ramchandra Ji. And what was the statement? Without Ramchandra Ji, all other relationships are meaningless. So here Ramchandra Ji not being her husband, here Ramchandra Ji being Paramatma. And so in Bhakti Shastra, there's a huge emphasis, even in Vedanta Shastra, huge emphasis in every single relationship we have is dependent on our relationship with Purushottam, with Supreme Truth. I can't have a relationship with anyone else unless I have that essence or truth or that life within me. And so my first relationship is always to that essence within me. That first relationship is always to truth. In Bhakti, we say that our first relationship is to Bhagavan. Every life, we have a different mother, different father, different brother, different sister, different spouse, different kids. But every life, it's that same Bhagavan that we have a relationship with. And so the one relationship that stays consistent throughout every lifetime and in between lifetimes is the most important relationship. And then every other relationship comes after that. And so Sita ji is referring to that. When she says every other relationship makes no sense if he's not there. So you want me to leave that one relationship that's the most important. For whom? The mother of this life, the father of this life, the mother-in-law for this life. And then that makes no sense. It will have no meaning. That relationship will have no meaning without this relationship. And so basically here, the idea is, what do I give importance to? That which is permanent. What should I stay loyal to? That which is permanent. And then if that which is permanent is already there, and that relationship is nourished and healthy, then every other relationship can be focused on as a way of sadhana. Right? Every interaction is serving to help me get closer to that primary relationship. So with interacting with each other, am I kind? Am I polite? Am I courageous? Am I detached? Am I forgiving? Am I cheerful? Am I all those qualities that we need to be able to make this relationship more powerful? We practice. So basically, relationships are practice for that relationship which is permanent. And so leaving Ramchandraji would make everything else meaningless. If you think about the way we live our lives, we do exactly the opposite, right? We invest so much of our time in all our relationships. And we cut out a little bit of time to worship and create relationship with Bhagavan. And Sita ji is saying here that, but all those relationships become meaningless if this relationship is neglected. Why? Because we're at the point of death of this body, all those relationships dissolve. And then I know some families, really attachment to the next level, because they'll say that all souls get born back into the same family. Interesting. If this is true, then wife is from one family, gets married into a husband's family. Which family will she get born back into? Husband's family? Oh, very confidently you're saying that. Okay, very good. She gets born back into husband's family now. Then you have the kids, but the kids got married out, so your kid won't be born back to you because your daughter got married out. So how are you being born back into the same family? People say it and they hold on to it with such, and at the time I hear this the most often is during funerals. And so at that time, I usually don't say anything because, when people are grieving, don't make them grieve more. But now nobody here right now, this moment is grieving. It's nonsense. Souls are not bound back into their own family. Firstly, timeline. We don't know when we get reborn. 100 years could have gone, 200 years could have gone. That family lineage might have not been there anymore. Secondly, we get born back into our human body to exert certain vasanas. So this life, maybe my vasanas was I needed to be born to a very rich family so that I can be highly pampered and pamper my dog. That's what they seem to do. Then now, hopefully, those vasanas are exhausted. And at the point of death, I realized that did not help me get any closer to moksha whatsoever. Now, next life, will I have that same experience? No. So why would I need to come back into that family? I need to have the experience that needs to exhaust those vasanas, and I need to have the experience that will help me learn whichever lesson I need to learn. And so I'm born into geography of this world. Right, so many different countries. Why would I come back to this country only? If people, people's attachment, I've even heard people say that then once you're born a woman, you'll only born a woman. Why? Like you're assuming you're going to be born Indian again. You're assuming you're going to be born. But that's just me being attached to what I am this life. Why can I be born? I can be born again as a cockroach, then why can't I be born again as another gender or another family or another nationality? Of course I can. So, point is, primary relationship is only with Bhagavan. Every other relationship is a reflection of that love that we feel, which is our essence. And yes, of course, when we love, that love continues. But love is a beautiful thing. I can love even when that person's not there anymore. Which happens all the time when we lose people to death. We continue to love them. And do they continue to exist? Yes. Not in the name and form that we remember them in. They continue to exist as jivas. So will I keep loving them forever? Will we meet? Well, eventually, when we get moksha, we one with all. Before that, will we meet? Possible. Hopefully, you get moksha very quickly. Hopefully, they get moksha very quickly. Like, why do we want to wish that we have these long, so many lives and we keep meeting? That's not the point of what the scriptures are teaching us. Don't desire to have so many lives and just keep meeting the same people again. The point is, become one with that love that we feel for whoever it is that we love. So Sitaji's comment is so potent. You're asking me to go back to the palace. But what's the most important relationship and which one should I be loyal to? And of course, it's specific here in this case to Ramchandraji as Paramatma and Sitaji as Jivatma, or Ramchandraji as Purusha and Sitaji as Prakriti. But still something for us to reflect on. What to stay loyal to. And so she says to him, even though she said, you are older than me and I shouldn't disobey you, she ends up by saying, it's not possible for me to live. So there's politeness in the way she says it, but there's firmness also in what she says it. And this is, I'm focusing on this because so little, in the whole Ramcharitmanas, we hear so little from Sitaji. Like actual words spoken by her is so few. And so here you can really get a sense of her wisdom and her depth. Like it's not a romantic, desperate, I can't live without him, he's my life. There's understanding here of why she is doing it. There's also understanding here of who she is. And then she says, I understand that my mother-in-law and father-in-law have my welfare at heart. But my welfare remains with Ramchandraji. That's also such clarity. Right? And I've heard this many times when Guruji and Swamiji speak on the Ramayana. That Sitaji has such clarity in her. She doesn't say much. When she does say, so like you can't argue with her. Which also shows great strength. Right? Like I remember I had met someone, of course, this was years ago. This was like a good 20 years ago. They were trying to convince me to do something. And I said no. And then they continued to try to do some, convince me to do whatever it is that I said no to. It wasn't anything immoral. It was change my ticket to fly on a later date. No, I'm going tomorrow. No, stay longer, stay longer, stay longer. No, I'm going tomorrow. And then, interestingly, which of course is not going to help her cause, but she said, I feel like you're the type of person that I can convince. Like, you just shot yourself in the foot there. Interesting. It was interesting that she thought that. And it's interesting that she thought she was so confident in her point of view that she could say it. At which point, of course, I smiled. I had already said no. I had already no intention of delaying the return. We're not strong if someone can change us. No one could change Sita's stance when she decided. Whether it was go to the forest, whether when she was kidnapped, whether when she was exiled, once she had decided, it didn't matter who said what. I mean, we can be strong and not wise. Because many of us do that, right? I've decided. Now coming. But here we see that she has reasoning. And so it's not that she's strong, but she's also strong with wise. So Sita Ji's answer. So Sumitra finally goes back, and they are now at the river Ganga, and they are ready to cross it. And we have this Kevat incident. And this Kevat incident is pretty much only here in the Tulsi Ramayana. I didn't find it anywhere else. It's a very, very sweet incident. How many of you already know this Kevat story? You know all the stories. No? Others don't know Kevat? When I start narrating it, some of you will. So Kevat means boatman. So to cross the river Ganga, you need a boat. River Ganga is quite broad. It's throughout India, wherever you find her, she's quite broad. Like you definitely need a boat to cross. And here, near Ayodhya, she still flows really fast. In fact, even in Triveni Sangam, which is where she almost merges into the ocean, she still flows really fast. Like actually, she really is very big, beautiful, powerful river in terms of speed, in terms of breadth, in terms of volume of water. So a boat needed to cross. And this Kevat, it's explained that he's seeing Sumitra crying, and then this Nisara, the Maharaj crying. So then Ramchandra ji is also sad because all these people are crying. And he decides enough is enough. Everyone's making Bhagavan cry. I need to make Bhagavan laugh. So no other boat is around, only his boat is there. Because remember, they left super early in the morning. They left even before the sun rose. So it's probably what? Sunrises in India, what? 6-ish? 5? So it's really early in the morning and no other boats are there, but he was there. And he's punya that he is there. So Ramchandra ji, Lakshman and Sita ji go towards his boat. And Ramchandra ji says, will you ferry us across? And he said, yes, but I have a condition. Yeah, exactly. They also wondering, what is this condition? Maybe, people, when they have their business, they have their rules of what they do. And so Kevat says, my condition is that I have to wash your feet before before you enter the boat. Mm. And Ramchandraji is surprised. And then even before anyone says anything, Kevat says, I know all about you. And, on your way when you were walking in the forest, your legs touched one stone and it became a woman. And now if your legs touch my boat and my boat becomes a woman, then how will I continue doing my business? I have to make sure that there's no dust on your feet and nothing touches my boat. So I have to wash your feet. And he was successful, and Ramchandraji giggled. Or laughed or was amused. Lakshman was not amused. Who are you here to say anything? If Ramchandraji wants to write your boat, you write the book. Lakshman's kind of, he's loyalty to Ramchandraji that, nobody should say no to him. Nobody should ever, put conditions on him. And it is said that even Sita ji was most annoyed. And like I said, this is not in the other Ramayana. So we're going by Tulsidas ji's version of it. And Tulsidas ji kind of indicates that both Sita ji and Lakshman are a little bit jealous because they didn't get to wash Ramchandraji's feet. And now this Kevat is getting to wash Ramchandraji's feet. What's so special about Kevat that he gets to wash Ramchandraji's feet? Which I don't know if they were jealous types. In my head, Sita ji is definitely not jealous types. And even Lakshman doesn't feel like he's a jealous type. I think he would be quite happy for somebody to love Ramchandraji so much that they'd want to watch his feet. But we'll go with Tulsidas ji's version. And then, but there's no other boat. So pretty much you have to do his conditioning. It's not like when, there's a side story here. So when Lakshman shouts or, gets all like with his bow and arrow ready to fight with Kevat, there's a backstory that apparently Kevat in his past life was a turtle. Tortoise, turtle, small little one. And he was swimming in the Milky Ocean. And he had decided he wanted to touch Bhagavan's feet. And so he was climbing up Sheshna, because Bhagavan sleeps on Sheshna. And as he was climbing up, Sheshnak notices him and hiss. Because Sheshnak doesn't want to disturb Bhagavan, this person. And so Kevat looks at Lakshman and says, you can do what you want. You've already killed me in my last life. This life, I'm going to touch his feet. And he says, Bhagavan tells Lakshman to be quiet. And the mention of that story is there. And if this is how it's being portrayed, look at this sincere desire of this jiva. That as a turtle, it crawled out, it got hissed at, it fell down, it crawled up, it got hissed at, it fell down, it crawled up, until it died from the poison of Sheshna. Only to be born again as Kevat, to sit at the bank of Gangaji, waiting for Bhagavan to come, and that desire hasn't gone. Like, doesn't matter how many challenges, I will reach Bhagavan's feet. Like, this is such a honest, beautiful, like, this is really the heart of a bhakta. Like, whatever challenge comes, Bhagavan's feet is my goal. However long it takes me, whatever I need to endure, Bhagavan's feet is my goal. And so this Kevat was ready, waiting, but not stopped by Lakshman this time, not stopped even by Sita ji. And he calls his wife to bring this bowl. And here too, Tulsidas ji makes it a point to say that this bowl that he uses is made out of mud so that the water stays. So after they've washed the feet from Bhagavan, the water in it stays in the mud. So whenever they use the bowl, they get that. It's called Chanramrit, right? The water that's used is blessed and drunk. And so he does. With his wife and his children there, he washes Ramchandraji's feet, he wipes it, and then Ramchandraji gets onto it. And this back and forth is very sweet. But it's his yearning is so sweet. And that heart of a devotee that makes Bhagavan smile. Like there's reason to be sad, but why dwell on that? If it can't be changed, then let the mind still remain cheerful in having to do whatever it is that we do, since what he has to do cannot be changed. But also my favorite part of this story is while they cross him, then Ramchandraji offers payment. Because he's a ferryman, that's his job. He ferries people to and fro from on the river Ganga. And his reply is, but I can't charge you. And again, Ramchandraji's face, like this man's full of surprises. Like, what's he going to say now? And he says, because people in the same profession don't charge each other. Like if a doctor needs another doctor, they don't charge each other. I don't know if that's still true, but it was definitely true in that era in Bharat. And it kind of makes sense, right? Because if a doctor charges a doctor, then when they same profession, you don't charge. Tailors don't charge other tailors. Even though you probably wouldn't need another tailor, but still, sometimes maybe your style you get bored of and you want some assistant. So again, Lakshman is like, what? Like, what are you trying to say? How dare you? And Kevat replies, I ferry people back and forth of the shores of River Ganga. And you ferry people in the shores of samsara. Bhagavan is considered boatman. In our bhakti tradition, he's referred to as Naya, right? Nava is the boat, and Naya is boatman. And Ramchandraji is poetically very often. And samsara is very often depicted as this ocean. And to get out of the ocean, Bhagavan comes in this boat and pulls you into the boat. It's very often, even pictorially, it's depicted this way. Even in the Gita Dhyana, Bhishma, Drona, Tata, Jayadrata, Chala, Gandharani, that line. And then that last line is Keshava Kevataha. In this river that is so turbulent, which is the Mahabharata war, I'm on the boat and Krishna is the boatman. And so very often depicted as samsara, our plight. If we're in the ocean of samsara, miserable. So get out of the ocean of samsara in the boat. And then don't just stay in the boat in samsara. You have to use the boat to get to the shore. And so since Bhagavan is the boatman, getting us out of samsara, Kevat says we're in the same profession. And then he very cheekily says, I helped you cross River Ganga. So now, when it's my turn to cross, you please help. Even if we're going to ask Bhagavan for something, we should know what to ask him. Like, why ask for anything else? Like here he's gotten such a beautiful privilege of washing Bhagavan's feet, and then Bhagavan's granting him something, and then he asked it in such a sweet, playful, joyful way also. Not like in a way that Bhagavan would never want to say no. Also seeing that, like he's already suffered so much trying to get to Bhagavan's feet. Once we actually get there, then ask that which you never need to ask anything again after that. And so Kevat's story is just it's probably one of the most beautiful bhaktas in all of the Ramayana, in all of Bhagavatam, all of the Puranas. Kevat's story really, really stands out in terms of his charm, but also what he asked for and how he asked it. And Bhagavan smiles. He doesn't say Tathastu. Usually when a boon is granted, he says Tathastu. Maybe he did in his mind, but out aloud he doesn't say Tathastu. Instead, he gives Sitaji's ring. At this point, Sitaji is still wearing some of her jewelry, and she takes out her ring and she hands it to him as though she knows that he needs something to pay him with, and he doesn't accept. And he says, if I take this, then I've taken him. But I won't take it. Because I want only what I've asked for. And often this happens in life. We want the goal, and the goal is Bhagavan. But on that goal to Bhagavan, when our hearts are pure and when we're sincerely striving, siddhis come. Power comes, fame comes. Very conducive environments for us to fulfill our desires. So easy to take that. So easy to take. There's no, our mind is so fickle. You can so quickly get distracted, tempted. But Kevat doesn't get tempted. They reach the other shore. And I think that last line, I didn't reread it this time, though I'll check and I'll tell you next week. That last line is a promise that his prayers will be answered, because we know that Bhagavan always answers. And when we see his sincerity, of course, it's going to be answered. But there's another thing in this section of the Ramayana, which is not there in Tulsi Ramayana. In Tulsi Ramayana, it's very, very sweet. In Tulsi Ramayana, there's absolutely nothing controversial whatsoever. In Valmiki Ramayana, in this section, when Ramchandraji, Lakshmana and Sitaji are crossing Gangaji, Sitaji makes a vow that while they are in exile, she will not eat meat or drink alcohol. Now, this is an interesting vow to make. You can only make this vow. And so why am I mentioning this? Because so often people have very rigid views on things like meat. Alcohol, I think it's good to have rigid views, just don't have it. I'm not in any which way encouraging eating meat, having alcohol. But what I do want to say is, sometimes when a person is walking a spiritual path in ashram cultures, then it gets viewed as this person's not a devotee if they eat meat, or not as good a devotee. They're not as pure if they eat meat or if they drink alcohol. Like, I'm more pure because I am Shuddha vegetarian. Will not even eat hidden eggs. I am more sattvic because I will never even look at alcohol. Yes, all these things are conducive to having a sattvic mind. But the only reason I mentioned that Sita ji makes this vow in Ramayana is because it can become so judgmental. And because if you look at non-Hindu traditions, there's no criteria for vegetarians. There used to be this Christian priest that used to come to the ashram very often. And he'd always make jokes to me about having a steak. And he would always wait for me to have a reaction. Like he'd say, let's go out for dinner. I'll buy you a really nice vegetarian meal with, peas and some carrots and some potato and a nice big steak. And I look at him and I'll laugh because, of course, that's not a vegetarian meal. But there'd be no further reaction. But he was always waiting to see if I would react to it. Because for them, they eat meat. It's no big deal. The tradition, unique actually to Asia. Although interestingly, he became vegetarian. He came what, 13, 14 years to the ashram? Somewhere in the 9th year, he became vegetarian. And I was like, what happened to that steak? What, you going to buy me a steak? For all his joking. But my point is, sometimes cultural differences, sometimes, of course, when we're doing it out of desire and we are stubborn to not let go of the desire, then we have to see it for what it is. So again, lots of families here in Hong Kong will be veg on Mondays and Thursdays. Then the kids will argue, why? What's so special about these days? Right? Isn't God there every day of the week? Why can't we just eat any day? Yes, God is there every day of the week. But the idea is to have that much self-control. So you don't give in. Hey, why should it matter that you don't have it? If it matters to you that much that you can't have it, that's too much attachment. But at the same time, if somebody does have, then it doesn't make them less divine. They may not be manifesting divinity, but it's there within, in every single one of us. Yeah, and this is an interesting bit in the Ramayana. You have to also remember that Kshatriyas in those days entertained, right, other kingdoms and all the rest of it, and all that culture was very much there. But Sita ji's vow indicates something else also. In our tradition, we take vratas. Right? People will promise, until I get this. Let's say if somebody's sick, until they get better, I will not eat sweets. Until they get better, I will be vegetarian. Until they get better, or when they get better, I will donate this much in charity. So we do this. It's very, vratas is very much a part of the tradition that we see being practiced. And here when Sita ji is taking this vrata, why are vratas done? So this is very important, but this is what I wanted to focus on with Sita ji taking a vrata. Because people do it so often and it's not understood. And so many people have questions about vratas. So I want something. Therefore, I'm taking a vrata. Either whatever desire it is that I want. So here, let's say, my desire is to heal from a certain infliction. So desire is there. How much do I want it? This is what I'm willing to pay. So when I take a vrata, it has to be something that I really value. I remember meeting this couple once, and fruit salad was being served, and she said, does it have star fruit? And I said, star fruit? Like, that's an interesting thing. And she said, because we went to Balaji and we had to give up some. And so, but now I should check, right? Does it have star fruit? Because we're not allowed to eat it. I said, but if you ate it, it wouldn't make any difference because you don't really value it. So sometimes we use vrata, but it's not serving its purpose. It's the payment for me getting the thing I want. How much is what I want worth? If it's worth star fruit when I don't like star fruit, I'm not going to get it. Right? How much do you want this? How much are you willing to pay? That's the point of vrata. Second, why give up something? Why make you pay that? Usually what I give up is something I'm very fond of, very attached to, something I value. So it's a strong line. How to make our mind strong? Not give in to likes and dislikes. I want something. To get the thing I want, I need a strong mind. What am I doing? Giving up a like so that my mind can become stronger, so that I can get the thing I want. It's still a want, but at least I'm making my mind stronger to be able to attain it. Right? That's the point of vrata. It's not bargaining with God. And it's not that God will only give it to you if you give up something. Not at all. In fact, I am living proof of this. I hardly give up anything, and Bhagavan keeps giving me so many things. Even things I don't want, he keeps giving me. Oh, thank you. Will he give? Yes. But very often it's our own minds that block us from getting the things we want. And so we have to train our minds to be stronger so that we can receive blessings, grace, and create the things we want. How to make our minds stronger? One way is discipline. It's a very conducive way. And so Sita Ji making a vow here is not emotional, sentimental. It's this resolve for her mind to stay in discipline while they move focus. It's a nice incident. It's such a small, it's literally 2 lines, huh? This whole incident in Valmiki Ramayana is just 2-3 lines, but it's so potent because what's said in this one line gives so much. Again, like if we're looking at Sita Ji, and I know I'm spending a lot of time because we've seen Ramchandra Ji for so many other speakers. To see her again, her clarity of thought and her deliberateness of doing things. And why does she do it when they are crossing the river Ganga Maya? Is because she invokes Ganga Maya's grace for this resolve and this journey. So even then, it's like when we usually, holy places is when we make vratas, holy places is when we give up. And she's here in Ganga Maya. And so she chooses to do it, to honor that tradition of giving up and invoking. In other interpretations of the Ramayana, Sita Ji represents bhakti, and the Ganga Ji also represents the flow of bhakti. So Sita Ji being on Ganga Maya is also quite extra auspicious. Bhakti in bhakti. We'll pause here for today. Any questions? No. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramani, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukha bhavati, asatum ma satam, tamaso ma jyote kamaya, mrityo ma amgamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnam Dachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Shri Hari